Welcome back for another major edition of a PGA DFS stream. We're here with some PGA DFS picks, the Masters 2022 lineup advice, live Q&A, FanDuel, DraftKings, Yahoo, bets, predictions, whatever you need. We're here to help you out. What's up? I'm Brian Jester. I am the co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, and I am joined by Niromada, our PGA DFS writer, which you'll never see on screen because his identity is hidden. But Niro, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good, Brian. How are you? It's Merry Christmas for all the Masters fans out there. It's the best lineup building day of the year. Come on.
Yeah, I think in theory, it's a great lineup building day. In actuality,
Yeah.
at least for me, it's been pretty rough these last couple of hours. But so again, we're gonna be here till about 9:30 p.m. Eastern. If you guys have questions, make sure you throw them in the chat. This is a live Q&A. Throw them in the chat. I see Nick is in the chat. What's up, Nick? If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you are already because MLB starts tomorrow. I know the focus is on the Masters tonight, but we have a long MLB season ahead of us. We'll be doing live streams or pre-recorded videos 6 out of every 7 days during the season. So make sure you subscribe, get notified when those go live. Give us a thumbs up if you want to see more golf content. You see the promo code there on screen for Prize Picks. If you're not in a legal sports betting state, if you're not in a DFS state, or you just want to get some extra action on the Masters, go check out Prize Picks. Use promo code OCCUPY to get a 100% deposit match bonus. So Nir, you were telling me before the stream, you got your Masters shirt on. You were actually down there before. What is it like for those who have never been?
Well, it depends. I think it depends partially on how much you love golf. If you love golf in the ways that I love golf, then it'll blow your mind, and it will be a borderline spiritual experience. If you just like golf like a normal person, then I think there'd be two things that would really surprise you. Number one, just like how well manicured it is. It looks that way on TV, I know, but when you see it up close, like there literally is hardly a blade out of grass like out of place anywhere. But the main thing that you just cannot appreciate until you're there is how hilly it is. It is up and down, steep elevation everywhere. There's hardly like a flat lie on the entire course. And I know it sort of looks that way on TV, but it really just doesn't do it justice. Once you get there, it's just incredibly hilly. And that's the biggest thing that kind of surprised me after I was there.
Interesting. And yeah, one of these days I have to make it down there for sure. Maybe they'll host a live final down there. How sick would that be? Uh, so the daily plug is up, occupyfantasy.com. I'm bringing it up on screen here really quickly. This is the weekly article that Niromada blesses us with, where he gives his top plays, lineup construction tips for different contest types on FanDuel and DraftKings. And then every Wednesday it comes in, and this is above the paywall. This part is the Pinnacle Steam. The Wednesday update talks about the betting market movements. Really valuable resource here. So Niro, given the fact that it is Wednesday night, we have all this information in front of us. When we're heading into Masters contests, we're building some lineups here before midnight. What do you think are the key points that people need to know when building lineups for this slate?
Yeah. I think the main things I covered in the general strategy section of the plug, but I'll go over a few of the highlights right now. So the main thing is this is not like a typical PGA Tour event. I think there's 91 players playing this year. It's an invitational, so you're only getting invited basically if you're one of the top 50 players in the world golf rankings, or you're a former champion, or there's some amateur criteria tournaments that you can win to get into the Masters as an amateur. But the point is that of those 90 players, there's 15 of them, let's say, that the amateurs and the really old former champions that have like no chance whatsoever. They might make the cut, but really not. They don't even really have a chance to make the cut. So you're only going to have about 75 real players that have a chance to make the cut, and the cut is low 50 in ties. So of those 75 real players, only, let's say 20 of them, if there's like 55 players that get across the cut line, are going to miss the cut. So that means, number one, if you don't have 6 of 6 across come Saturday morning, you're dead. You have like no shot to win a GPP, and you really don't even have that great of a chance to like get a high finish in a GPP. And the second thing is that ownership is condensed. It is much more like a WGC. For those of you that have played a lot of golf, those are the smaller field events that don't have a cut. There's like 70 to 75 players in those. And you just don't see nearly as many like sub 5% owned options that are real, that are like okay values this week in the Masters, like you do at regular tournaments when the field is like 140 or 150 and they cut the field in half after Friday. So follow up to that is that you then have to pseudo abandon the Occupy preferred building method for large field GPPs, where you're trying to find two players above 15% ownership, two below 5%, and then two in between the 5 and the 15. It's just really hard because most of the plays that are sub 5% for ownership are that way for a reason. Like they're pretty trashy. They would have been found out already if they weren't going to be below 5%. So I put some suggestions into the plug about how you could modify that. You could go maybe one player above 15%, four players in between 5 and 15, and then one player below 5%. I more tend to use the Masters as a week to like really focus on my cumulative ownership of my lineup. So somewhere between like 100 and 130%, or maybe even below that a little bit. Like that's the cumulative, ownership that I want to. Oh, wait, is that math right? I don't know if that math is right. But anyway, you can do the manual math. What's the saying? I don't do public math. I shouldn't do public math on a YouTube show.
Yeah.
But you could do that manual math of those guidelines that I laid out, and then say, okay, I want my cumulative ownership then to be somewhere in this range to ensure that I don't just have 6 players that are above 12% ownership, let's say. If I have one that's at 25% or 22%, then I need to make sure I have like 3 or 4 players in between that 5 to 15% range. And it's just a week to be a little more flexible with your lineup structure. Last thing I'll say is it's also a week that I don't love leaving a lot of salary on the table to get unique. I'm all for that in regular weeks, because it's just so hard to pick like who are going to be the guys at the end in the top 10. But in this week, because the field is so deep at the top part and so bad at the bottom part, then I would much rather like get 6 players that are between 5 and 15% ownership and not worry about who they are, and spend all of my salary cap and probably be pretty sure that I'm going to be unique there, rather than trying to leave like $500, $600, $700 in salary. I just feel like you're costing yourself a little too much EV in that scenario.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And as I was building before the show, I've got most of my lineups built now. And if you try to put in the typical Occupy construction rules in our lineup builder, I did the first run, and it's like, okay, 75% exposure to Cameron Champ. It's okay.
Totally.
let's figure out how we can modify this a little bit, because that, even for me, that's extreme. So
Yes.
we actually have some questions here in the chat, and I think a lot of this applies. So. So Matt says, is there a different strategy for both the $100 Millionaire Maker and the $15 Millionaire Maker? And for those who aren't aware, the $15 Millionaire Maker is 100 and some thousand entries. The $100 Millionaire Maker is only 28,000 entries. So it's a pretty big difference, and I'm playing both of those. So I was building a little bit. Nero, I'll tell you about my strategies, and I'm curious to get your feedback here. In the $100, where there's over 100,000 people, and that's bigger. That's 3 times as big as a normal large field PGA GPP on any given week. I'm more likely to take chances on the 5% guys in that. Wait,
contest. You mean in the $15 one, right? You said 100.
In the $15, yes. Way more likely to take chances on the 5% guys there, and then maybe your multiple guy, or like your entire lineup in between 5 and 15 in the $100.
I think that's a great strategy. The also would be, if you want some exposure to Tiger Woods, like get him in the $100 one and not in the $15 one, because he's generally going to be likely I think most of the sharper players are going to be under the field on Tiger, and the casuals are going to be over the field on Tiger. So the casuals make up a larger percentage of the $15 because it has 320,000 entries or whatever it has. So get your exposure to Tiger if you want it in the higher buy-in levels, because I think the sharper players who play more by the math and are just not going to play him. Because again, like Tiger's 8,500, he's like minus 110, plus 110, whatever to make the cut, very much even money. Contrast that to somebody like Tony Finau, who's $400 cheaper and is like minus 280 to make the cut. So all of those players that play by the math are just not going to roster Tiger. So if you want Tiger exposure, go get him at higher buy-in levels and you'll have more leverage.
There you go. Just spend more money, and that's how you get Tiger at a discount.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So Matt also asked, is 80% cumulative too low for large field? And I'll just answer that. I'll say no. I have some as low as 50 or 60%. And again, that's for the $15. But yeah, I think that there are ways to get there without being too bad in your lineup. So let's see here. A couple more questions. JJ asks, well, he says, what's up? What's up, JJ? Given the price and his history at the Masters, do we fade $11,000 Scotty? And I think this is a good. We'll go through each pricing tier really quickly, but let's just start, and then let's start with the top tier, Nero, and then I'll answer some more questions, and then we'll go back to these other pricing tiers. But in the 10K plus range on DraftKings, so that's Scheffler, Rahm, DJ, JT, Morikawa, Hovland, and Rory. Who do you think is the best tournament play out of that group, and who do you think is the worst tournament play in that group?
Yeah, good. That's a good question. So, interesting thing is you've got 4 players there that will be probably close to single digits or right around 10, 11%. Scheffler, Morikawa, Hovland, and Rory should all be, you could probably throw a blanket over their ownership. Rory will probably be a little more owned than those other 3, but it'll be really close. And you don't usually have that at the Masters. Like the 5-figure guys usually don't see single-digit ownership on those. So number one, I would say they're all good leverage plays because you just don't see that very often. Personally, I think Rory's the best play out of that because I'll take the discount on the salary at roughly the same ownership with a guy who has a lot more course history there than Scheffler does. But again, you want to play Scheffler? Great, go play him. Like, is anybody in the world playing better golf than Scotty Scheffler right now? Like, I don't think so. And the nice thing about Scheffler is you don't even have to surround him with low-owned pieces. Like, you could surround him with some slightly higher-owned pieces or some mid-level pieces because he could be like one of your lower-owned pieces in your lineup.
Which is crazy. Get one of the best golfers, probably the best golfer in the world right now, considering how he's playing at some of the lowest ownership, which is pretty crazy. All right, we have a couple questions in here about the weather. So lots of rain coming in Augusta yesterday and today. That's going to impact how the course plays over the first couple of days. We also have some wind to look out for. So Nero, what's the latest on the weather and how we should be using that information to either make lineups or make bets?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, of course, took a fair amount of rain yesterday, and is going to take a decent amount of rain overnight, like maybe an inch plus. Oh, wow. if I had to guess, maybe even a little bit more than that. So there's 2 things. Number one, that means that the course on Thursday morning is going to be soft. Number 2, it could also mean there might be a delay. So there could be some thunderstorms that are obviously a part of this system. And, I don't know, there could be some stray lightning or whatever. Like, I don't know, play might not start until noon or something if they have that delay. And then that would have the same thing that happened at the Players. And you can't really, like, stack anything based on tee times. And I don't really know that you can either. Okay, well, hold on. Let me finish with the wet stuff first. After that, no more rain for the rest of the 4 days. So what I expect to happen is fairways are going to be wet. Maybe damp would be the best way to say it. Ball's not going to roll very far all day Thursday and most of the day Friday. But because there's going to be so much wind Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and because they have such good drainage on the course, I think by the weekend, the course will be starting to really firm up. The greens will absolutely be firm, and it'll start to play firmer and faster. Every couple hours, it'll just get a little firmer, a little faster, all the way through to Sunday afternoon. So what does that mean? It means that theoretically, the distance guys should have an advantage on Thursday and Friday. certainly on Thursday, you could build some showdown lineups accordingly to play some more distance guys on those days if you would like to. For the wind, it's going to be, you could look right now currently on the wind finder forecast says 2 p.m. on Thursday. It's going to be blowing 15, gusting to 23. 2 p.m. Friday, it's going to be blowing 16, gusting to 29. So is that really that different? Yeah, I mean, it's a little windier on Friday afternoon. I suppose if I had a choice, I would maybe get the guys that play later on Thursday and early on Friday because they'll get a little bit of a break on Friday morning from the wind. But we saw what happened to the players. If there's any type
have
of
a repeat of that, please,
right,
guys.
exactly. So if you do that, if there's a 3-hour delay, forget it. Like they're not going to get the round done. The guys are going to be finishing in that window. Then they're going to turn around and like they'll get stuck in that big part of the wind. So I don't think there's a huge stacking advantage. You could certainly do it if you want to. The other thing is that guys that play well in the wind, might have a small advantage. European guys might have a small advantage because it's going to be cold and it's going to be windy it's going to be windy Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It's going to be cold on Friday, Saturday. So the high, most of the time they're going to be playing golf on Friday, Saturday. The temperature is going to be in the 50s and in the 40s even a little bit. Like the high, I'm looking at 8 a.m. Saturday morning. It's going to be 43 degrees and 10-mile-an-hour wind with 21-mile-an-hour gusts. That is not weather that the guys in Florida and that enjoy. That is weather that the European guys are much more used to. How big is that advantage? I don't know, 5% minimal. But it's something. So if you need to break some ties, you could use that weather info.
I mean,
for yourself.
We know Nero's never going to turn down an opportunity to back some euros in a golf.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So
there's no doubt about that.
All right, let's get to some more of these questions here. Great question from Bobby Tuggs in the chat, longtime listener, longtime friend of the show. It says, what stats should I be looking at for the tournaments that have already been played leading up to the Masters? Does momentum matter leading in? So I guess maybe the last month or so, what kind of stats, what kind of events, courses, history are you looking at for golfers that you think can play an importance in selecting guys to either win in your bets or for DFS lineups?
Yeah, strokes gained approach would be the first one. I mean, distance is distance. I don't think you're going to see a lot of changes there. Like the long guys are the long guys, and that's just the way that it is. Ada Golf had an interesting visualization earlier this week that they published that showed that the average Masters champion gains 0.25 strokes total from their baseline in the 2 months leading up to the Masters. So anybody that is, gaining is increasing their overall strokes gained in the last, 6-8 tournaments would be an indication of someone who's playing well, striking the ball well, and has a good chance to come to Augusta and win. I think the main thing would be it's a tough course. First of all, it's always tough. It's never easy. And the wind this year is going to make it much harder. That's why I put the estimated win total at -8 to -12 this year. Normally it'd be a little bit higher. And so you're not going to be able to come here and find your game out of nowhere. If you've been playing bad, this is not the place that you want to show up to and hope to play better and find some confidence. You want to have confidence stepping to the first tee here. And so that would be the main thing I'd be looking for. If there's, last 2 months, if my overall strokes gained are going down and trending in the wrong direction, I'd give second thought to having a ton of exposure on somebody like that.
That makes a ton of sense. And we always hear that about the Masters. It's not a place where you want to find your game. You want to come in there with your game. So, so keep that in mind. All right, let's get back to the pricing tiers and our favorite and worst plays for tournaments. In each tier, we already talked about the 10K plus range. If you missed it, if you're watching this replay, go rewind back. We talked about it a little bit earlier. All right, the 9K to $9,900 range. And this is a question that there was a question in the chat. Starlord's dad, will fading the entire 10K range give you leverage in the $15 GPP? Hint, I did that in the $15 GPP. We see that in majors that there is pretty good leverage in not playing a 10K plus golfer. So I'm on board with you there, Star-Lords. That obviously the Masters is a little bit different because of the field size, but I do think that's an okay approach for sure. So if you choose to fade that range, Nero, and we look at this 9K to $9,900 range, favorite plays, plays that you're not playing as much of.
Yeah. In a vacuum, my two favorite plays are Koepka and Cam Smith. They're also going to be the two highest owned plays. So you're going to have to work around that a little bit for large field stuff. My least favorite play is obvious. It's Hideki. He's withdrawn from the last two events that he's entered. He's clearly not in great shape. So that's not great. Cantlay is a great leverage play. He's going to be probably around that 10% ownership range. Spieth also pretty good leverage play, should be, I don't know, 12, 13, 14%, which is not that much for a guy that has the course history that he has and the guy who led the field last week's in strokes gained tee to green. If you want to be super high risk, there's nothing. Well, I can't say there's nothing wrong. You could play Bryson in large field tournaments. He's going to be sub 5%,
which is crazy, right?
He's $9,100. And if I would have told you 6 months ago that you get Bryson at 3% ownership at the Masters for $9,100, you would have freaked out. But he's obviously not completely right. He said in the press conference on Monday that he's about 80%. But that doesn't mean that an 80% Bryson can't compete here and do well, right? Like he's still going to be plenty long. Even 80% swing speed, I think his ball speed is somewhere in the 170s, which would still put him in like the top 2% of all tour players at 80%. So he's still basically the longest guy in the field on a damp course, but obviously it's super risky, right? Because he could easily miss the cut. He could re-injure himself. He could just not play that well because he's 80% healthy and he's rusty and he hasn't practiced as much. But yeah, that, super high risk. That would be my favorite. But my two favorite plays in there, just straight up, are Cam Smith and Brooks Koepka. I will have plenty of them, and I will work around them in the lineups that I have them in.
For sure. And, Bryson said what par at Augusta for him is 75, 76. So even if he shoots over par, he can still win the tournament for him, right?
Yeah, he said. I think he said it was 67.
67,
yeah. He said that leading into the November Masters, and then promptly played like an idiot. So,
all right. Let's see. We got some more questions in here. If you had to pick one for pool, Garcia, Westwood, Sink, or Zach Johnson, Garcia should be highly owned. Thanks. Do you have any takes on that, Nero?
It was Garcia, Westwood, Sink, and Zach Johnson.
Yep.
And Garcia. Yeah, I mean Garcia is the obvious choice there. But if you're I assume in the pool would be the most owned player. I don't know exactly what kind of pool you're in, but if it's a pool where other people can take that guy, then yeah, that would make sense. I think I would probably take Sink there for the leverage. He's got, he's played here a ton. He's got a pretty decent record. He's long enough, like he's longer than Zach Johnson is. So yeah, if I needed leverage out of that quartet, I think I'd take Sink. If I didn't need the leverage, obviously I would just take Sergio and move on.
Right. Okay, sounds good. All right, we have about 5 minutes left here, 6 minutes left. So let's fly through these last couple of ranges. Again, if you want all the picks, OccupyFantasy.com, check out the daily plug, check out the Occupy model, read all of the updates, and that can help you out. And if you have any questions, you can always hop in our Discord server, OccupyFantasy.com/Discord. Click the join button below this video. Get access, chat with us about PGA and other DFS sports. So, Nero, we're going to have to run through this quickly. So, 8K range, our favorite play of the entire tournament, Tony Finau, is in this range. So I'll save everyone the trouble. He's the cover boy of the Daily Plug. If he doesn't make the cut, you're going down the ship with all of us, so don't feel bad. So, 8K range, favorite play outside of Finau and plays you're not too happy about.
My favorite play outside of Finau is Shane Lowry in the AK range. I do think there's some nice leverage to be had with Louis, who should be single digits. And then the one that I'm not super on, I do not have a lot of Sung Jae. I'm under the field on Tiger. So yeah, there you go.
Cool. 7K range starts with Answer. Who did we find out why he withdrew last week yet?
Oh, I still never saw.
Not great. Okay, 7K range. It goes all the way down to, we got a lot of guys in this range, all the way down to the McIntyre List Young tier. So who you got here, Nero? Best play, worst play?
Yeah, I'm just looking through it right now. I think my best play in here, again, when I'm considering for tournaments, is to roll the dice on Paul Casey, who says he's 100% healthy and that the back spasm was just a random thing that happened to him at the match play. He's got a great course history here. If it wasn't for that injury, he'd be much higher owned than he is right now. So he's my favorite tournament play in that 7K range.
Fair enough. And then if we have to dip below the sevens, we get into the sixes. And I know you want to take Larry Mize or somebody like that, but let's be realistic, Nero. Who is the best play in the 6K range?
I mean, for me, it's in the plug, but it's Thomas Peters for me. Now he's going to be the most owned play. So if you want something that was sub 5%, I think you could do a lot worse than Lucas Herbert, and certainly the huge line move on Mackenzie Hughes, kind of tripped my alarm bells today. So I think you could also play him down there at 6,300.
And Peter's not going to be like too crazy, right? Like 9%.
Yeah, Peter should be like 8 to 9%. Again, it's just like the scale is different with the Masters because the ownership is condensed.
For sure. All right, Ken's in the chat. Ken's been crushing PGA contests this year, and he always asks this question when we do a stream. It's always fun to answer.
I knew it was coming, Ken. I knew it was
So
coming.
hopefully you prepared your answers here, Nero. So we're going to pick a winner, your favorite play, someone you're fading, and a guy that you're playing that we shouldn't. So we'll start with, we'll go back and forth, Nero. We'll start with the winner. Who's going to win the Masters?
Justin Thomas.
Okay, you say JT. I'll say Brooks. I'll say Brooks wins the Masters. All right, favorite play in DFS?
Tony Finau, no question.
I got Finau too. Obviously, he's my most exposed player across every single lineup. I'll give a little secret here. He's in both of my 4-4, 4-4 lineups. So go Tony. Outside of that, I'll say Shane Lowry is my second favorite play. Fade, guy that has significant ownership that you're not playing much of or at all.
That is a tougher one. The guy that, as I'm looking through the ownership chart that I'm sorted, I don't have a ton of Russ Henley, and he's looking like he's going to be like 16, 17, something like that percent. I think I'm okay with that. I just don't have much of him.
Yeah, I don't either, and go figure, because we work together pretty closely and we use a lot of the same information. So I'm on the same page. I don't have a lot of Henley. I'm actually not playing a ton of Rahm either overall.
Okay.
I think I'd rather play other guys in that range based on a couple factors. And then this is the best answer. Guy that you're playing in your player pool that if you're advising someone who's watching this stream to play a DFS lineup that they should not play, you're playing them, but they shouldn't play. You don't want to be responsible for that loss. Who are you playing, Nero?
I already said it as Lucas Herbert. Definitely, you shouldn't play him. Just to be clear.
All right, so Lucas Herbert for me. Okay, I got to figure out who else is in this range that I was looking at that I'm playing. It's probably Hideki. I am playing some Hideki. I know I'm a glutton for punishment. I learned my lesson. Yeah. I'm not playing him anything super high dollar. I'm playing in the $15, sprinkling in the $100. But
But he's the same. He's the same as Answer and Bryson. You're getting like 3% ownership, 2%, 1% on these guys because they have fitness concerns. Fine. Put yourself in an NFL mindset. How often do you play those guys in a big NFL tournament? Because you're like, yeah, but who really knows how hurt they are? I mean, the same thing applies here.
And honestly, there are probably times in NFL we don't even know guys are hurt, right? So
yeah, exactly.
We'll definitely play them. Lewis asks, Hatton or Finau? The answer is going to be, if it's X or Finau, the answer is going to be Finau.
Yeah,
so I'll say that.
Very true.
All right, Nero, it's 9:30. I know you got some lineups to build, and we'll get out of here. Any final thoughts on the Masters lineups this week? Bets, anything that we haven't touched on that you think people should know?
I think my main thing would be, go back and re-listen to what I said at the beginning. Like, the Masters is a different golf tournament than every other week of PGA DFS because the field is smaller, the pricing is super soft, and you just can't get the ownership leverage that you can usually get in a PGA Tour event. So you have to adjust your mindset a little bit, be willing to take on a little bit more chalk, and don't hunt for as many of those sub 5% plays as you would normally hunt for in a regular week of PGA.
Absolutely. Great advice as always. If you want more of Nero's takes, make sure you sign up for OccupyFantasy.com's membership. Read the Daily Plug, which Nero does every single week during the PGA season. You know what? I'll just bring it up really quickly. Let's bring it back because we got to just tout Nero a little bit here. Every week, he has weekly transparency where he reviews his previous week's plays. And if you look at a player's projected DraftKings points based on their salary and how they actually have finished this season in 2022, his plug write-ups have scored nearly 1,000 points more than expected over the past 3 months, which, maybe you're not going to pat yourself on the back there, but I'll do it for you. That's a hell of a job so far. And look at the previous years. Over 1,000 in 2020, over 700 in 2021. So every year, Nero is giving you the best plays for DFS. And Nero, I know you're on a downswing, so it may not feel that way. So I'll give you a little confidence here that
Thanks, man.
That you do an excellent job with the plug, and if people aren't reading it, they're missing out.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I need that as I head in to finish up my lineup building to change my mentality for a little bit more confidence.
For sure. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. MLB starts tomorrow. We'll be here, I think, live tomorrow morning. So subscribe. Don't miss that when it happens. Give us a thumbs up if you like the content. Any further questions, hop in our Discord server, OccupyFantasy.com/Discord. Remember, we released our new betting tools this week. Just check out the betting menu at OccupyFantasy.com for the live odds and the OccuProp Radar Prop Finder. Great tools if you're making any sort of sports bet in a legal sports betting state. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, quick plug for those. Those are great tools, by the way. Like, those are amazing. So kudos to you guys for what you built there. They're awesome.
Appreciate that, Nero. And I just can't wait for Maryland to get their shit in order so I can get on board and get some mobile betting. So for Nero, I'm Brian. We're at Occupy Fantasy. Appreciate everyone listening, and good luck at the Masters.